We're following breaking news this morning. It's the big story from Yates County. A building collapsed overnight. Severe weather there caused massive flooding. Adam Chodak joins us live this morning with the very latest on the damage.
Yeah, Norma, this is the building that collapsed behind me, partly because a wall of water 8 feet tall, a wave, in fact, a surge, hit it like a wrecking ball. Also, the ground underneath gave way. You see the parking lot here is basically washed away at this point. Cars are nose down in the mud. A lot of things are happening here in Penn Yan this morning. First, you have people out and about trying to absorb what happened, taking it all in. You have generators starting up in the area, people trying to get on with their day because this can't stop them from doing business in this bustling area. And then you have police. They are meeting, emergency crews and agencies. They are meeting in just a few minutes, and they are going to figure out, A, what happened, and B, what they're going to do about it. The power, electricity, all that has been shut off. They're going to figure out a plan for the rest of the day. This cleanup is not, though, going to last one day. This is going to take weeks and millions of dollars. Reporting live from Penn Yan, this is Adam Chodak, 13 WHAM News.
My house is gone. I've lost everything. The water rise so quick, there was nothing that we could do.
Businesses leveled, roads washed out, cars swept away, people rescued from their homes after fast and heavy rains roll through Yates County.
Good evening. Yates County is under a state of emergency tonight, and the governor announced today help is on the way to those flood-damaged areas. The storm swept through last night. Cars buried in mud, roads closed, and a Penn Yan school serving as a temporary shelter. We have live team coverage of the storm aftermath. We begin tonight with 13 WHAM's Kelsey Smith live in Penn Yan. There, of course, the brunt of the damage. Kelsey?
Don, well, we're on Elm Street in Penn Yan. You can hear the generators still running, businesses behind me still trying to clean up what the storm left behind. To give you a perspective of what they're dealing with, not only is there water and debris, but there's also thick and heavy mud they're trying to clean up. You're looking at surveillance video of a semi-truck going down the middle of Champlain Avenue. Here's daylight video of that same truck on top of a van and a boat.
We may not even open if there is not sufficient insurance money.
Robert Tingey co-owns O'Leary's Pub. He also lost his car in the storm.
Well, I'm afraid I'll find fish in the car.
Down the street at Finger Lakes Entertainment, Nathan Baker says he feels lucky there was only about 3 to 4 inches of water in his store. Downstairs, there's a different story.
We're just trying to see what we can save and what's got to go.
To put into perspective how much water was in this gym, all you have to do is look up at the t-shirts hanging in the back of the room and see the water line.
One workout at a time here, so we'll get there.
A heavy weight to lift together, waiting to figure out what's next. Businesses I spoke with tell me they'll continue to clean up and wait to hear from their insurance companies. All are unsure if they'll be covered. Live in Penn Yan, Kelsey Smith, 13 WHAM News.
Cars submerged, yards underwater, roads washed out. And while heavy rains didn't just impact Yates County this time around, folks there are still frustrated.
Looking forward for me is once again get my feet to the ground, doing what I can, dig out, rebuild, repair.
Yeah, a lot of work to be done. Good evening. Heavy rains led to major flooding in several area counties today. For people in Yates County that were already cleaning up mud and debris from Tuesday's devastating storm, the steady rain created even more of a mess. 13 WHAM's Evan White joining us now live from Penn Yan with a kind of give us a sense of how people are coping. Evan?
Don, the houses here behind me are uninhabitable. There are some that tell us they're holding out hope, hoping they can clean out the homes enough to move back in. Others say they're looking forward to what's next, a new home. Steve Hall is here, cleaning for his relatives, clearing mud.
In some spots, there's 4 or 5 inches of mud in there.
Volunteers have joined throughout the day, dumping trash into this dumpster.
Right now, we've got a hose in there, and we're trying to get as much mud out as we can.
His goal is to save the house.
We're hoping we can save it. It's just a matter of coming up with the funding to do it.
A few houses down, Cynthia Rose returned home.
I'm homeless now, but I know the Lord's with me.
Her sister helped salvage a few belongings. Her apartment and car are ruined.
This is the first time I've had since I got evacuated by boat Tuesday night.
It's not an easy time at all.
It's hard. It's just really hard. Trying not to cry. I have my moments, okay? I'm trying to really keep my composure, okay?
Champlain Avenue has several of the near dozen Penn Yan homes the village's mayor says are uninhabitable.
We'll rebound. Bad things have happened here before, so we'll survive.
Now, I spoke with the village's mayor a short time ago. He says they still don't have a figure, not sure exactly how much all of this is going to cost to be able to fix it. They're expected to come up with a plan and submit an application to FEMA to try to get funding, federal funding, to help out with the repairs here, but it's unclear when that will happen. They still haven't come up with a total. Reporting live in Penn Yan, Evan White, 13 WHAM News.
Hope and the possibility of help tonight for areas devastated by two powerful back-to-back floods just over a month ago. Federal aid could be on the way for families impacted by those floods in and around Yates County. Good evening. I'm Alexis Arnold in for Ginny tonight.
And I'm Don Elhart. Congressman Tom Reed announced this week that damages in that region, including those in Ontario and Wayne counties, meet the minimum requirement, $26.9 million to receive federal aid. 13 WHAM's Rachel Glazer was in Penn Yan today. That, of course, one of the hardest hit areas to see how they're going to cope with all of this. Rachel?
Done a long, expensive recovery process. The damage is still there and it's bad. Now, it's been about a month and estimates to repair and rebuild continue to climb, but in a weird way, that's kind of a good thing if FEMA comes through.
I'm working for 34 days, so been a long time out.
$200,000 in damages with no insurance and no income.
Electrical, plumbing, subfloors, floors, everything had to be redone.
And that's just for his restaurant. John Pilar also lost his home in the floods.
You know, everybody's helping out, but it's still a big loss.
Pilar applied for assistance from the state, $25,000 to help get his business back open.
Well, I haven't received a check on it yet, but that's supposed to be coming through.
Even when it does come in, it'll hardly come close to his losses. Pilar says after a flood like this, they need FEMA.
The infrastructure gets first dibs on all them, whatever money there is, and then whatever left over.
Damage to infrastructure in Penn Yan is about $2.5 million. Homes and businesses in Yates County come close to $10 million, and those estimates are still getting totaled up.
Just borrow the money and hope I can pay it off, and you know that's what right now is just spending it, try to pay it off, and hope the business comes back. And
for home and business owners, it's a situation many have found themselves in, taking on debt to try to stay afloat.
It's been very scary.
Wagner reopens tomorrow. Pilar says he hopes that'll buy him some time.
Don't know if I am going to survive.
While the possibility of federal aid is encouraging, Pilar says it doesn't put an end to his struggles, at least not anytime soon. They've reached the minimum requirement. Governor Cuomo must send a formal FEMA request to the White House. President Obama will then work with officials to decide whether or not that's warranted. Local officials say they have no idea when they will find that out. In the newsroom, I'm Rachel Glazer.
It is hard to forget the destructive power unleashed by nature last spring when heavy rains spawned those devastating floods in Penn Yan. And even after all of these months, the nightmare is still very real for a family that says their home is falling apart right before them and they're unable to save it.
Don, they've shared their story with 13 WHAM's Rachel Glazer. So devastating for them. I know you know because this is not the first time you've been to their home to see what's happening there.
Yeah, we first met them after the first flood and then again after the second flood. So we've been out there a few times, and you'd think after what we'd seen with the floods, that would have been the worst of it. But this disaster has really lingered for them.
It's still very vivid, that noise. You can still remember that feeling of that water coming in that fast.
Western New York watched the water rise. The Carrick family felt it.
Stood up right here and the carpet was a little wet. We flipped on the light and the water was coming up the vents. Couldn't save anything. Couldn't grab anything. We didn't even have shoes.
Nearly 6 months later, downtown Penn Yan seems reborn. The roads repaved, businesses reopened, and the creek returned to a trickle.
Exactly. They're like, look, we've come back and the tourists are here and everything's back to normal. It's not back to normal. Come down Champlain Ave. See what's happened.
It's not easy for Mary Ann Carrick to go back to 25 Champlain. How long did you guys live here?
17 years. That was a living room and that was my bedroom. And that was the kitchen and that was the dining room. And then the 2 boys were upstairs and then we had one.
The house where she and her husband raised their 3 kids is now a damp memory.
And to come in here, it's not home anymore. All that's gone. I don't have any other pictures anymore.
Family photos can never be replaced, but Carrick hoped at least the walls would be.
Nationwide. And they came out the day after and said, no, we're not covering that.
The house wasn't in the flood zone, so the Carricks dropped that additional policy a year before the flood.
Because I don't have a house to live in and I have to replace everything. We've used every dime we've had and we live from paycheck to paycheck.
Drowning in debt, the Carricks are forced to live at a relative's place about 30 minutes from Penn Yan.
I still get the phone calls every day. I still get the letters in the mail every day from the mortgage companies. And now I'm getting letters from other companies that said, we've seen your credit report now. So I can't even get a low-interest loan to try to pay them off, to get them off my back until we can figure out what to do.
So the low-interest loan's out, but what about all that FEMA money? $11 million the governor said was set aside for Yates County. Well, all that is going to be used for public assistance.
He did not mark help for homeowners.
There is a $10,000 state grant, but to get that, the Carricks would have to live here for at least 3 years and buy flood insurance.
The front of this house is in the flood zone now. It would cost us an arm and a leg to get insurance to move back in here to have a house, unless we move the house back.
Every available lifeline has failed, and the Carricks are still waiting to be rescued.
It's not back to normal, and I don't know how long it's going to take. Everybody's like, oh, you'll be back to normal before you know it. It's not.
The Carricks have people looking over their insurance policy to see if they can get any money. Nationwide representatives couldn't comment on an individual policy, but I think the frustrating thing is they didn't have flood insurance, but they did have it for 14 years before this. So they've been paying those premiums. Now that they need it, it's not there, and they just haven't been able to get help.
And someone advised them when they redid the mortgage, you don't need that.
So that's what happened. They got their mortgage redone, and someone said, this is extra, you don't need it, you're not in the flood zone, just let it go. A year later, this happens.
Everything that could go wrong for them did.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel so bad
you keep, every time you talk to them, you say, well, what about this? What about this? And, you know, they've tried, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll continue to follow it.
Thank you, Rachel.